Okay, so welcome to Introduction Chemistry. So in this topic, we'll talk a lot of intro. What is analytical chemistry? What is it about? So that's what we'll be looking in this lesson. Let's get started. Okay, so we are saying what is analytical chemistry. So you guys, you remember in grade 12 you used to learn to say there's about 7 or 8 that you mentioned branches of chemistry. So you can talk of organic chemistry. So you were asked, I remember, to say what are the branches of chemistry. So one of them of which you looked to, it was analytical chemistry. You mentioned of organic chemistry, you mentioned of analytical chemistry, you mentioned of inorganic chemistry, you mentioned of physical chemistry, you mentioned of so forth and so on. So you mentioned a lot of chemistry branches. So those were branches. Now one of the branches, it was analytical chemistry, I guess. So if you hear of analytical chemistry, so in this lesson we'll be talking more about analytical chemistry, just the intro. What is it all about? What are things involved? What are we doing as we are studying these branches of branch of chemistry? So that's what we want to look at. So it's one of the major of these branches I'm from mentioning. So this is a chemistry of analysis or chemistry of chemical measurements. So in this chemistry that we have heard to say analytical chemistry, you will be looking at the measurements themselves. So these measurements will be in different types. That's what we'll be looking at. Okay, so it is also called chemistry of measurement. So it is also called chemistry of measurement. So yeah, so analytical chemistry, it is also called chemistry of measurement, chemistry of measurement. So it is also called chemistry of measurements. Okay, yeah, so this is the other way you can say chemist, analytical chemist, so that you focus on what matters. So if you don't get the point here to say we'll be dealing with the measurements, then you get lost as we go into details. So we are saying chemistry of measurements can also be called analytical chemistry. So in this analytical chemistry, we'll be dealing with the analysis of chemical substances. So these chemical substances, they can be of natural or artificial. Are you getting me? So they can be artificial chemicals or natural chemicals. But what we are interested is just the analysis. We need to conduct the analysis as we are chemists. Okay, so data will be obtained in the form of quantitatively. Let me do this. So data will be obtained. Okay, data will be obtained in the form of qualitatively. So we are saying data will be formed in the form of qualitatively, and also in the form of quantitatively. So we'll be obtaining data in the form of qualitatively and also quantitatively. So if we obtain data in the form of quantitatively, then we'll know what a qualitative data and also quantitative data. So if we are talking about this data now. They will be in the form of our what's this? That's what we'll be recording now. So from there, then we have talked about analytical chemistry. What is involved now? What is analytical chemistry? Let's answer the question which say what is analytical chemistry. So in simpler ways, you can say analytical chemistry is the study of separation, identification, quantification, quantifying data, or I mean quantifying the substance of the in terms of chemical components. So we are saying analytical chemistry, so we'll say analytical chemistry we are saying analytical chemistry is the study of separation. So the keywords are separation. So pay attention to such words even when you are defining in your book. So one, separation, okay, separation, identification, identification, and also quantifying or quantification, and quantification. So quantification of, we can say quantification of chemical components, chemical components, so chemical components of, so they can be in the form of natural or artificial, like I said. So they can be in the form of natural or artificial, okay. So these materials, they can be in the form of artificial or natural. So when you say artificial, something that is just not made by what's this, that is not made by nature. So artificial, something that is just made by a human being. Then natural, it is made by nature. So those are the things that we'll be looking at. So the keyword that you need to know are separation, identification, quantification. So these are the way that you need to know as you are defining. Please don't forget. So analytical chemistry is the study of a separation, identification, quantification of chemical component in the form of natural, artificial. In that way, we'll be able to see. So that is it about analytical definition. This is the best definition you can be writing in your books. So remember, we talked about those two types of data, the way to be obtained. We said qualitatively and also quantitatively. So what are these now in details? Let's talk about them now. So we'll start with the qualitatively. So let's start with qualitatively. So start with qualitative. So what is qualitatively? So we'll say what is qualitative analysis. Okay, so now for us to answer qualitative analysis, we said analysis is just how you are performing a process. You are trying to analyze something. So for you to analyze something, then you need to have a goal. Focus on what matters. So concentrate on what you want. That's the analysis you are conducting. So you need to make sure that you are getting the real data from that analysis you are conducting. So when you hear of the term qualitative analysis, so qualitative analysis, this one will be just there to give you the data in form of words. In short, it is the analysis that give the an identification. So it will say it gives the identification. So the keyword is the identification here. So the keyword is identification. Identifying. So we'll be able to identify chemicals that are contained in that what's the substance or material. So qualitative analysis will give you the identification. Let's say this is this pigment is lead. So that is one of the identification. You have identified to say it's lead. So meaning that is qualitatively. Okay. So we are saying it gives the identification of the identity. So it will give you the identification of that identity of the species you are performing the analysis on it. So that's what will happen. It will give you the identification of that species. So that's the data obtained in qualitative analysis. Okay. So from there, then we'll talk about also quantitatively. So say quantitatively. So what is quantitative? Let me say, what is quantitative analysis? So what is quantitative analysis? So when we talk about now, this one we have said it is giving us identification. That's qualitatively. What about quantitatively? So quantitative analysis, in this analysis, will be there now to talk about the quantities or the amount of that component we are performing the analysis on it. So we are here to determine. So it gives the amount. So this one it gives the amount of that species that we are working on it. So it gives the amount of the species. A species just whereby you are doing the experiment on it. So it will give us the amount of the species. That's what we are going to obtain in the quantitative data or quantitative analysis. Remember, the analysis is just how you are analyzing something. Sure. So that is it. Then the other thing that we can talk about is the issue of example. So let's say this is the gold. So a gold mineral, let's say this is gold mineral. Okay. So we'll say this is gold mineral. So since this is gold mineral, so gold mineral, it has lead inside in it. Okay. It has, this is orange, I guess. So it has lead inside in it. Then what is the analysis that we are going to get? So for quantitatively, we'll say it is, let's say 5 grams. Okay, then for so quantitatively it's numbers. Then qualitatively we say, oh, it has red color, it has yellow color, and also they say, yeah, green color and green color. So these are the things that we'll be finding once we conduct qualitative analysis. So those are the things found in qualitative. So this is the best example you can imagine this. So when you ask what is quantitative analysis, this is the analysis that give the amount of a species. Okay, so for qualitative analysis, this is the analysis that give the identification of a substance or a chemical species. Remember we said analytical chemistry is the study of separation, so we'll be there to separate these things after we are done identifying, quantifying, everything like that. So those components will be identified in such a manner, will be separated in such a manner, and also quantified in such a manner. They can be of artificial and also natural. We don't care. What we want is just to do the analysis. So let's go into these details now about these. So we'll talk about now under qualitatively. So what is involved under qualitatively? So quantitatively in details. Okay, so qualitative analysis, we are saying now this one is the analysis or it's just the field of chemistry. Now let's talk about, let's say it's the field. So it's a field that deals with the identification of elements or grouping the element present in that sample. So we'll be there to identify, like we said. So the mixture can be of complicated one, but we'll be there to try and also extract data from it. So examples under this. Examples. So let's talk about the examples now. So let's say we want to see what is it that we're able to see. So we'll say visual identification. So we'll say visual identification will be used in this study. So visual identification is one of the best example we can give, because we just want to identify something through our eyes. What color is it? What colors are there? You know, how big it is just by looking. Is it big or small? That way, those terms. So we'll be here to get data through what we see. Okay, that's visual identification. Let's say something is ready when we put it in water or in any other solvent that we can put that substance. Then we give, let's say we get the color is, what is the color that we're able to see is just something else. Then we're able to tell, to say no, there must be a lot of colors in this substance. So example, let's put what's this, a Kiora or a sweeted, I don't know how we call it, but we call it a Kiora. So that Kiora, when you put in water, you'll be able to see, oh, the Kiora is red, and for sure the Kiora, sometimes it was written red. So you'll be able to say, oh, visual identification, you have identified. Now from there we don't know the grams, the mass, everything like that. So that's one of the best example we can use. The other example that we can give also, it's also frame test, where we see now the color of the, say, of fire. You know, fire, maybe the burning fire, maybe we can see, let's say red, orange, some kind of orange and yellow, sometimes blue for methylated spirit. So those will be able to tell, to say the color is this. So you are identifying now, okay. So frame test, we can also, when we test the frame, let's say the frame that is giving it's lead, so, or brew, we'll be able to say, oh, in this what is contained is alcohol or methylated spirit, something like that. So that presence of something using the frame test, it will be able to identify something, and that is the qualitative data that you are trying to get. So frame test of a substance, one. The other one is if you can give also another one, is where we see, let's say, different colors, and that is called paper chromatography. So say paper chromatograph. Or chromatogram, any either. So it's one of the way we can use to identify something. So in this paper chromatograph, we'll be able to see different colors now using a paper. So once solutes are passing through a paper, they'll be trapped themselves on a paper chromatograph. So another thing we can use is also chromatogram itself. So this one, it was paper, then chromatogram now will be just, it will be measuring, let's say we have the peak 1, peak 2, just like that. So those to my apex point will be used to say, oh, the presence of this one, it has moved to this position, meaning what is present in this one. Okay, so we can say chromatogram itself chromatogram. I said this one is where you see to say, oh, are they in the same line, then meaning these things are different. If they are in the same line, then they might contain something in common. So that's what we can use. So the other thing that we can use, as of the last example, we can give of what's this, identifying something using a spectrum. So this spectrum it is going to be giving different waves. If we talk about waves, let's say it was supposed to be reading like this. This is the reading that was supposed to be obtained. Now it has given like this. So we'll be able to say, then let's say there's something here. Let's say this one means lead. So as it is reading like this, then this small one means, let's say, black. So we'll be able to say, oh, this is the type of substance, or a substance that perform under this. Let's say it's what's this, N mineral, we can say it's magnesium. Okay, then the substance that perform here, it's oxygen. So those are the things. So that's what is involved in what's this spectrum. When you are using a spectrum, so that's what we'll be using when we are using a spectrum. Okay, so say use of spectrum, or just a spectrum. To identify something. So remember, we'll be using the word identifying from since we started under qualitative analysis. So these are the things involved. We have talked about the definition for qualitative analysis, examples of qualitative analysis, and these are the best example you can give if you are asked to give. So I've talked about them in details, but you can see more you can check on Google, you can check the pictures, everything that you see what is involved. So we are now going to talk about quantitative now. What are we going to use for quantitative analysis? So let's go to quantitative analysis. Okay, so for quantitative analysis, so I'm saying quantitative Okay, so quantitative analysis now, we have talked about it to say we are obtaining the amount of substance or a chemical or amount of a species. So we are trying to obtain something in the amount form, right? Then this amount that we will be finding, it will be expressed in the form, let's say 2 grams, let's say 5 kg, 10 kilogram, and so forth and so on. So these are the things that are involved in quantifying. You are quantifying something in numbers. So the number, the data should be expressed in numbers, so that you are catered in all the angles. Remember, at first we were trying to identify what is the color, everything, that this is the presence of what. Now let's talk about the numbers, the amount of that thing that you're from just identifying the color. So we are trying to see all the angles. The analysis should be performed in all the angles. So this is what is happening here. Okay, so if we can get a lot of information, that's where even statistic issue will be involved, to say which one is now the best. Should we conduct a mean? Should we calculate the mean? So those are the things we'll be talking about. So the data that will be obtained, it will be in the form of number. Let's say we're trying to find the gradient and see the relationship, where we use the equation 2, so where we use y is equals to mx plus c. So that's the equation. Sometimes we are trying just to see the relationship of these component. Sometimes you can say y minus y1 is equal to m open bracket x minus x1. So these are the equations that you use in mathematics just to find the relationship of those components in this case. So that is it. So watch out lesson 3 of this chemistry. So that's what is involved. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe and enjoy the next video as you are going to study analytical chemistry. Thank you.